We're chatting right now in the dark room at dark30radio.com. Join us, unless you're scared. Then maybe hide under your blankets. Just keep your ear close to the radio. After all, this is the newest show in paranormal, Dark 30 with Jeremy Scott on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
Yeah, we got about 50 of you in there tonight, and this is the newest show in paranormal. Welcome. If you're here to talk flat Earth, round Earth, well, you are in the right place. We have got a festive atmosphere tonight. I first want to introduce our first two participants and set the debate for what is going to happen. Set the stage for what's going to happen in the debate tonight. And to the participants as well who have partially been briefed, but now they will be fully briefed on how this will go. So we'll try to be as civil as we can. I will be the mediator and the moderator, interjecting only when needed, and to take our mandatory breaks. We'll have to get one of those in the next 10 minutes. But we'll meet the participants, Mark Sargent and Mark D'Antonio. And so these guys are going to basically debate their theories over whether the Earth is flat or whether the Earth is round, because they both believe, in the opposite things. And so we'll bring them on, and after this, then we've got another person who believes that the Earth is flat and another person who believes that the Earth is round, and they'll come on and debate, and then we will kind of tag team it. So you'll get to debate the both participants on the other side. Welcome first to Mark Sargent, who is a professional computer game player and has spent 20 years training on proprietary software. In 2014, he started looking into what is no doubt the most ridiculous conspiracy ever, called Flat Earth Theory, and through extensive research, he has discovered that it's not so laughable after all. Mark Sargent, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
And the other Mark is Mark D'Antonio. Now, Mark is and he's got a crowd with him. He's the chief photo and video analyst for the Mutual UFO Network. Mark has been involved with MUFON since 1971, and he has a vast amount of experience investigating UFO cases. He's here as well. Good evening to you, Mark.
Hey, good evening as well. Thank you very much.
So is it safe to say that both of you disagree?
I would think so.
I do not believe in the flat Earth theory. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And this is Mark D'Antonio, so your response, Mark Sargent.
I used to believe in the globe, but I tried to prove it for 9 months, and now I'm on the flat Earth side.
What was the tipping point for you?
How much time do I got?
Well, take a few.
All right. Well, the tipping point for me after looking at this thing really was the Admiral Byrd footage. Well, okay. You know what? Let me back up. I would start with Admiral Byrd, but I'm probably going to sell myself short. And that is, what I tried to do was go from the other side. I tried to debunk this, the flat Earth, for 9 months, meaning I should have been able to find overwhelming evidence for the globe. And that includes thousands and thousands of pictures that should be there, thousands of hours of videos that should be there, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I came up with almost nothing. So by the time I got through, my months of digging into this, I had to ask myself, what made me think it was a globe in the first place when mainstream science doesn't really have anything to back it up?
How can you possibly say that?
How many pictures do you have from the Earth from space?
Thousands.
Thousands. In fact, fantastic. That's great.
When you watch a ship go out to sea and you watch it disappear over the horizon,
yep.
What's happening there? Do you have a nice? You don't have an explanation for that because you don't understand that it's going around the globe.
Wait. How did we jump from thousands of pictures of the Earth from space to the ships going across the horizon?
I was simply trying to tell you the truth, and that is that the Earth is... why am I even in this debate?
Exactly. You should hang up right now.
No. Don't hang up. Do you know... Hey, Mark, do you know who Mark has with him? Who do you have with there, Mark?
I have Lee Spiegel here with me. Nick Pope is here. Ben Hansen's here. Alejandro Rojas is here. We're all at a UFO conference, and they're all looking with incredulity that anyone believes the Earth is flat.
Of course, and anyone that looks at this thing...
Wait, who's that? Who's that? Whoever that is shouting from across the room needs to come close and talk on the air.
That was Paul Davids being funny. He doesn't really believe the Earth is flat.
Anyone who looks at this theory to start, and I mean anyone who looks at this will laugh. Absolutely. I did. I would have laughed you out of the room if you would have brought it up to me in 2014. Absolutely would have done it. And I tried to. I tried to shut it down, man, for 9 months. And you tell me where the evidence is of globe. Show me physical evidence where the globe is. Show me the curvature. Show me the Coriolis effect.
I can show you this. I can give you a perfect example. There's one geological spot on the Earth, okay, and it's in Russia, okay, and it's called Lake Uranut.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Nope.
Oh, it's called Lake Uranut.
And the significance of that.
Wait, and this is? I got a lake for you. It's called Lake Michigan. Why can you see the Chicago skyline across it 52 miles at perfect clarity in time lapse for 12 to 15 hours? Why doesn't that illusion waver? Why people calling it a superior mirage? It goes through weather. It goes through temperature changes. It goes into darkness. It does not blink. Why is it there?
You know what? I hate to say this, okay? You are a professional computer game player. That's what you do, if there's such a thing. I'm a scientist. Okay?
Fantastic.
And I have studied much NASA footage. I mean, the actual shape that the universe creates for planets, they're all around you. Just look in the solar system. They're all spheres. They're all round. The moon is round.
First blue marble shot. First blue marble shot taken.
Don't overtalk me.
Okay, go ahead. What do you got?
The moon is a sphere. All the planets in the solar system are spheres. The sun is a sphere. Yet somehow the Earth is flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to go to Lake Uranut.
And you need to go to Lake Michigan. 1972, blue marble shot was taken by Apollo 17. When was the second blue marble shot taken? Tell me. Look it up. This is an open book test. Look it up.
How do satellites work?
Don't you understand?
Hey, let me. Okay, hang on. I'm mediator and moderator. I think it's kind of unfair right now. Don't you think that, Mark?
What? They got
you called me.
No, I'm saying
You called me and I told you where I was, so you get what you get, pal.
No. I love it. Trust me, I'm loving it. I'm just trying to throw a little balance in there, buddy. Continue, please.
Okay. When we look at the number of satellites up in Earth orbit, now orbit means what?
Rotating around what you call Earth? Yeah, go ahead.
What you call Earth.
How can you go around something that's flat?
You can't go, Karen Barr just said you can't go around something that's flat. And you know what? That's exactly right. You know, when you watch a ship go out to sea and you see it disappear over the horizon, okay, that's happening because the Earth is round. When you see a jet contrail in the sky that looks like it's coming up vertically from the horizon, it's actually parallel. But you're seeing it in a foreshortened way as it's going around the globe. Now, obviously you're on this show because you have this intense belief and nothing can sway you. So there's really almost no point in having a debate, which I debate from the point of view of science and reality. You debate from the point of view of fantasy and fallacy.
Yeah, so you're not going to answer the Chicago skyline question. You're not going to answer the blue marble shot of 1972.
Why do I care about the blue marble shot of 72? We've got so many more now. And in fact, you know what?
I'm sorry. No. When was the second shot taken? There was only one shot taken from 1972 until July of 2015. Look it up. The White House tweeted it. Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted it. NASA tweeted it. They said, oh, by the way, this happens to be the second shot we ever took of the full Earth from space in 43 years. You have no explanation for this.
I don't need to explain it because right now you can go to the online right now and go to the ISS HDEV experiment. That's the high definition experiment.
Yep.
And you can watch live shots of the Earth from space all day long on your computer as it shows you the limb of the Earth. The ISS is orbiting the Earth. First of all, you need to explain why that isn't reality. You need to explain why that is false. You also need to explain why satellites can go around in an orbit every 90 minutes and somehow be predictably in the same places over and over by all the tables and almanacs. You need to be able to explain all of those scientific facts.
Scientific things. So from your point of view, we went to the moon.
Yes, of course.
Everything that NASA said is absolutely true, gospel truth. NASA would never lie to us.
You're
about
asking
anything.
me to no. I'm sure that there's certain. Remember, you got to remember this. All of the astronauts were Air Force personnel, so there were classified aspects to their mission. So yes, NASA hid some facts from us. And it was because it was military in nature. But we landed on the moon. I have photos from LROC, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera, and it shows very clearly the descent stages, lunar tracks, the rover, all kinds of things on the moon that we left there when we landed.
Great. That's absolutely excellent. I got a question for you, scientists. Van Allen radiation belts, they deadly or not deadly?
Say again?
Van Allen radiation belts, are they deadly or not deadly?
Well, the Van Allen radiation belts, those actually, we punched through those with no problem.
How did we get through them? What shielding did we use?
The Van Allen argument has always been, that's like a red herring. Okay?
Red herring?
Yes, because the astronauts were not in the Van Allen radiation belts for long at all.
That was the answer. They floored it. They hit the gas, and that's how they got through it. They're not going to explain the shielding. NASA has never explained what shielding they use. They can only use gold or lead. That's all they can use, and they won't talk about it. But more importantly, let's go down a different road, and that is, if Van Allen radiation belts aren't really a problem, then why did the Orion project really concentrate on them in a video that's on the NASA website right now called Orion Trial by Fire, which they say we can't get through. We're not going to send people through those until we can solve the radiation problem of the Van Allen belts. It's there right now. Orion.
Do you understand that when the lunar missions were done, they actually sent the astronauts through a polar orbit so that they could go out through the poles where the Van Allen radiation belts were minimal. We do understand that the Van Allen radiation is dangerous, and so we had to do it minimally. We had to send the astronauts through the minimal amount of it. Now, do you also realize that the International Space Station goes through a period of its orbit where it's actually exposed to more radiation from the Van Allen belts because they actually dip down below the level of the station's altitude? Do you realize it does that too? I mean, we have these problems. These are real problems, but we get around them. We got around them to go to the moon however many times, 7 times.
So when the Apollo missions, by the way, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, when they came back from the moon, even though Van Allen himself said the way we got through it was we just went real fast. That's a great technical answer of getting through the Van Allen radiation belts. He didn't mention the polar thing at all.
You're sticking with the one thing that
No. When you come back from the moon, don't you have to slow down a whole bunch because you're coming into Earth's atmosphere? And when you slow down, you're going to go through those belts, and nobody got cancer.
Do you understand what a braking orbit is?
And so the braking orbit means you're not going through the Van Allen belts.
The braking orbit is that when the astronauts came back from the moon, they entered an orbit around the Earth, and then they...
Marine Chief says there's no Coriolis effect. Artillery radar operator,
No.
Same thing. I could keep going.
You know what you're guilty of? You're guilty of picking and choosing little snippets and not taking the whole context.
I interviewed all these guys for 2 hours.
Let me explain this, okay?
Hey, Mark D'Antonio, can you get a little bit closer to your microphone, if at all possible, Mark?
What?
Can you get a little bit closer to your mic, if at all possible?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm practically screaming into the phone.
Fantastic. Keep going, then.
I said, when you say that a Navy submarine commander says there's no Coriolis effect, you have to finish the sentence. Coriolis effect on what? On
the missile firing solutions, on the torpedo firing solutions, on the Navy missile firing solution.
Do you understand how Coriolis effect works? Do you even understand the net force on a large, massive missile of a Coriolis effect? Obviously, you don't.
So you're saying that Coriolis effect has no effect on ballistics of any kind?
It's negligible. It's negligible, and so yes, because
negligible. It doesn't exist.
The word is negligible.
So from anything from bullets to missiles, Coriolis effect doesn't affect any of these projectiles.
No, I didn't say that.
Or
I said heavy missiles, it doesn't.
Heavy missiles. What about artillery? I got an artillery guy, one in Afghanistan, one in Fallujah. He's going to do this.
I'm trying to explain.
Go ahead. By all means. Go ahead.
No, by not all means. You're going to interrupt me in 2 seconds. The bottom line is, okay, when you have a massive object, okay, Coriolis effect is negligible. As a matter of fact, you know how they always say that in a drain, the water goes counterclockwise, in one hemisphere and clockwise in the other.
Yep.
That's absolutely false. It's a lie. It doesn't. That just happens to be the random nature of the way water goes down a drain. The Coriolis effect has such a minimal impact. It does not cause water to spiral in different directions. It spirals in equal directions. It goes either way in either hemisphere.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll agree with you on that.
The point is that there is no net effect of Coriolis effect on water. Okay? And water is a lot less dense and a lot less heavy, okay, than a missile, which would have even less effect. So clearly, a large object like that, they don't need to worry about Coriolis effect. Okay?
Okay. All right. Hey, you know what? That's not bad. I'll actually take that.
I mean, it's not bad. I'm trying to. This is just facts.
No. I'm not going to argue with it. Coriolis effect has no effect on these things. That's great.
All right, Mark Sargent. Here's what we've got. We've got one closing comment from you. Then we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Mark D'Antonio. We're going to give him about 6 minutes to stop banging his head against the wall and get some sanity back. And then at the top of the hour, I'd like him to join us again because we've got David Weiss coming on the line to, go, I guess, round 2. So, Mark Sargent, closing comment.
Closing comment. Over the last 6 months, I have interviewed at least 12 subject matter experts. No, none of them in NASA, but all representing all branches of the armed forces, and professionals in flight, industrial engineer, career surveyor, international shipping expert, corporate travel agent, and an air traffic controller as of last night. Nobody has come out against these people. Nobody from the military, nobody from the professional sector, and nobody from the science sector is willing to come out and make a video or at least make a statement and say they are wrong because of these things. It baffles me that we have come this far and this secret has been hidden for so long.
All right, we're going to stop right there. Mark Sargent, thank you for your time. We're going to be back with you in the next hour. We'll hopefully have another round earther for you to debate at that time. So we'll say goodbye for now. Mark D'Antonio, stick with us because we're going to have you back at the beginning of the next hour against David Weiss. That will be round 2 of this debate, Flat Earth, Round Earth. I'm Jeremy Scott, and stick with us because we're going all night. Till midnight on the West Coast, 3 a.m. on the East Coast. This is the newest show in paranormal on the TuneIn Radio app, the Roku player, fine radio affiliates coast to coast, and all made possible by the Mutual Broadcast Network.
On the Mutual Broadcast Network.
All right, we got one final closing comment from Mark D'Antonio. And Mark, you're at a UFO conference, is that right?
Yeah, correct. I'm at the UFO Congress out in Fountain Hills, Arizona.
What's going on out there? Is that a weekend going on all weekend?
Yeah, and I got to do a talk on Sunday with special effects legend Douglas Trumbull. Doug and I work together, and he's the Academy Award winner, and we're creating a UFO detection system, and together we're gonna explain it and show people how it works, and and of course it depends on a spherical Earth, and so far we've had no problems, so we really do believe that the Earth is round.
Well, Mark, we hope to have you back at another time. I do appreciate you being with us here on a late hour. You're from the East Coast, so it's well past the witching hour for you, but I appreciate you coming on, and I actually hope to have you back in another capacity when we can have a more civil conversation.
Yeah, I think that'll work out well.
All right, Mark D'Antonio, appreciate the time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And we will have round 2 of our debate coming up next as we are going to bring David Weiss on the program. Now, he was going to possibly debate Mark D'Antonio, but Mark has had to leave us, and so we are going to get somebody else on the line, maybe you. 855-952-TALK, that's 855-952-8255, but we do have other participants in the wings, so stick with us. Things are a little bit out of order tonight, but trust me, you're loving it. On the Mutual Broadcast Network, it's Dark 30.
Somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest, you're entering Dark 30.
Well, I told you it was going to be different, and different it is tonight. Is the Earth flat? Is the Earth round? Heck, is it rectangular? 855-952-TALK. That's 855-952-8255. It's toll-free. You can Skype the program at Dark 30 Radio. And in addition to that, well, you can join us in the chat room. We've got lots of folks in there who are chatting it up tonight, talking about, well, who knows what. Actually, lots of activity there in the dark room tonight. Appreciate that. We kind of roll with the punches. Certain folks are available when they are. Others are not. We are still in search of one of our round Earth participants who is fashionably late at this point in time. But we do have right now joining me David Weiss, and a little bit of a background on David. He's a truth seeker who became aware of the flat Earth a year ago and has been trying to debunk it since with no luck. And David is with me now. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for having me on.
So you heard the beginning part of the conversation, and your response is?
My response is, the flat Earth is a complicated thing to understand, and being at a party, probably drinking, is not the best way to have an intelligent conversation. He asked some great questions.
Well, hey, hang on. Let's be fair. We don't know that he was drinking.
All right. Well, it seems kind of social. I would have been if I was there. So,
if it was really that social, he would have still been with us, but he had to go to bed.
All right. No problem. I didn't mean anything disparaging by it. I'm just saying
it's okay. I'm mediator and moderator, so I just have to do my job.
To learn about the flat Earth, you really have to look into it because of all the mind programming that we have. When I first learned about it, I said it's insane. I refused to even look, and I had all of the same questions that he asked. The problem is people ask questions and they don't listen to the answers.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this question for you, David, and we're going to find someone for you to go up against. In fact, we have that person, and I told you who they are, but in all fairness, we did have some standbys tonight in case somebody did not show up, and even the first matchup was not as it was expected to be, so Mark and Mark didn't even know that they were going to be talking, so in all fairness, that will be the same setup that we'll have for you. But the question is, instead of all this he said, she said, and we've had no she's. I want to know, by the way, where are all the women in this argument, but that's another thing. Let's get past all the theories. Let's start with the evidence. What do you say to that?
You want to talk about evidence? There's so many places to start, but as far as where the women are, Patricia Steer is out there. There's a lot of women in this flat Earth movement. You just have to look for them. Just search flat Earth on YouTube. You'll find almost 5 million hits. The one question that everybody starts with: how do you circumnavigate the Earth? And it's the same way I circumnavigate Central Park when I'm in New York. I cut over to the west side, I go downtown. I cut over to the east side, I go uptown, and I'm back to where I started from once I cut across the park again. And Manhattan is not a ball as far as I know. It's pretty flat. And that's what happens. The flat Earth model, the center of the Earth is the magnetic north, and everything else is floating around it in a big puddle in a lake. Our oceans are like a lake with islands in the middle, and you can navigate around them, just sail around the lake. That's circumnavigating the world. And you can only do it east to west. You cannot circumnavigate the world north to south, because south is away from the center. East and west go in clockwise and counterclockwise circles around the center. So that's how you circumnavigate a flat Earth.
All right, we've got a call. We've got John, and where are you joining us from, John?
I'm in Las Vegas.
And you have something to add to this debate? What side are you on?
I'm on the flat Earth. I'm hearing myself echo in here. I don't know if you're hearing echo on me.
It's usually a Skype thing. It will hopefully go away. I do not hear the echo on you, so as long as it goes away, just proceed forward. So we have two flat earthers right here, and we're looking for a round earther. So, John, where do you stand on this?
I started looking at it, and I put a few posts up on Facebook and immediately got hammered by everybody that I know that was looking at a lot of good things, but flat Earth is something that really gets people pissed. And what I did was then I kind of stepped away. I saw something there right away, though, immediately. and I'm very intuitive, and I'm generally the first guy to bring up things. I won't name all the topics I bring up, but I bring up stuff that no one would dare do most of the time. And then I went back, started looking, and David's a guy that I really have been friends with for some time now, and he's kind of a like-minded thinker as I am. He looks at things more than most people. And then
we hear you just fine.
Okay. Then I started looking at it again, and I have a good friend on the East Coast who was looking at it with me. In fact, I got him to start looking at it. Most of the time, I get people looking at stuff first, but David's ahead of me on a lot of things. And once I started looking, I have common sense, and I just started thinking about how, to me, we're so brainwashed on so many levels, and this didn't, to me, seem implausible that they would do this as well. And I've been mostly an atheist my whole life, and this actually has brought me into thinking there is a creator. I never could get past the Big Bang. Never made any sense to me. From nothing, all this came. I never could understand that. As far as I thought, that was poppycock from the get-go. So there's a lot of things that we were taught as kids that didn't add up ever, and I just started looking at it more and more. And I've heard debates a lot on YouTube, and I always find myself siding on the flat earthers. At the end of the debates, the round ballers never win, in my mind. They never win. They never come close to winning. And basically, they repeat what we were told as kids, you know. It's the old gravity thing. That never made sense to me as far as just commonsensical things. I've always been a guy to look at other things, but that's pretty much, I just started looking, and the more I look, the more I see myself. I write
Jeremy,
songs about everything.
Could we maybe take some questions from people in the chat?
Oh, we have questions in there, and do you see any that stand out to you right now?
I'm actually not looking at the chat. I there's a chat room.
Yeah, I know. Lots of folks are saying a lot of stuff back and forth. There haven't really been any questions. We have lots of people in there who are slinging stuff back and forth, but there haven't been any questions. If I've missed those, make sure you put those in all caps. I just want to say we will have a round Earth believer coming on next. But from somebody who posted on Facebook earlier in the day, actually Harry, said just exactly this, Isaiah 40:22, end of story. And we've even had a few folks allude to that in the chat room, which says, he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, yada, yada, yada.
So above the circle of the earth, they didn't say a ball. I mean, it's a flat circle. That's the flat earth theory. So you can interpret that either way. I interpret it flat.
All right. You have a response to that, John?
Well, I'm like, again, I haven't, as far as the Bible goes, I haven't looked at that in my whole life, but I will start looking at it. But basically, my response is, I'm looking at so many things that the curvature doesn't come to play. And I'm also looking at so many places the water is flat for miles past the curvature. I mean, there's just so many examples, and after a while, let's just put it this way: every day I walk outside, I feel the Earth is flat. I've always felt, I don't feel like we're moving through space, and that's what science has gotten us away to think, that we're just this unimportant entity in a universe. And that's pretty much why you become an atheist. The Earth is just nothing, and we're nothing, and we're moving so fast through the universe. That's what we're taught, and we're going around the sun. The sun's moving, everything's moving. But you know what? All your life, you go outside, you stand, you look outside, and you don't feel like you're moving ever. So a lot of that is just the feeling you get when you go out, and I don't feel like we're doing this rotation and moving through space. And the moon landing is another example. I mean, I never bought the moon landing 100%. That was easy to trick people. You only had 3 networks back then. And I think that's been pretty well proven that the whole thing was fake. So if NASA's lying about that, what else are they not telling us, you know? So basically that's how I feel, you know? I mean, it's just common sense to me on so many things, but also looking at evidence.
Well, I appreciate the call from Las Vegas. We will have round 2 of Round Earth versus Flat Earth. Stick with us.
Dark 30. Are you is blinking 12? You're entering Dark 30 with Jeremy Scott on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
Okay, that last one didn't count as a round because it was, well, 2 flatheads going at it. But now we have welcome to the program along with David Weiss. By the way, David, can you give us your website?
My website is deepinsidetherabbithole.com. And there's 2 Flat Earth pages there. If you're new to it, go to the FAQ page at deepinsidetherabbithole.com, the Flat Earth FAQ page, or just the Flat Earth page. All of your questions are answered on those pages. Mark's videos, Flat Earth clues are linked there. If you take the time and look at this ridiculous subject from the indoctrination that we go through our entire lives, you will see what the true ridiculousness is. And that is this spinning ball Earth flying through space at ridiculous speeds where nothing ever moves. And every year, all the stars reset in the exact same position they were the year before.
And now we'd like to welcome to the program the skeptoid Brian Dunning. Good evening.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Wonderful. You are, among other things, a computer scientist. Tell us about yourself, since you were kind of a last-minute sub in, or you tagged in.
Hey, I'm up for it. I'm best known for doing the Skeptoid podcast. It's been a top 10 science podcast on iTunes since 2006. So I've been doing this for a long time. I run a nonprofit called Skeptoid Media. We produce free educational materials. And it's a STEM-focused nonprofit trying to get people interested in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Okay, David Weiss has made his case that the Earth is flat. Let's have Brian Dunning tell us why it's round.
Brian.
No cheating, no cutting in. It's Brian's turn.
It's kind of hard to know. I mean, we've known that since Pythagoras in the 6th century BCE. It's trivial to perform experiments to prove that the surface is round. I have no illusions that I'm going to change David Weiss's mind here. So I'm not going to try. What I think is most interesting, and what I think listeners are probably more intrigued about, is the history of this idea. How you came about to this. I mean, the history of flat earthing is
that's interesting.
I mean, it began as basically for something for the biblical literalists. Someone mentioned a verse from Isaiah a while ago. There's some other things in Psalms. It's basically something that people who are trying to prove the literal truth of the Bible have been promoting. It's always been a very small fringe idea. It's never been part of science. There's sort of an urban legend that people in ancient societies believed that the Earth was flat. And there's really no truth to that. All the ancient cultures that we know of who had any kind of meaningful science knew that the Earth was round. Like I say, the ancient Greeks were able to prove it with some trivial experiments, and we've been doing the same thing ever since. Columbus certainly didn't have to convince anyone in the court that the Earth was round. Any educated person knew it back then. And it was really in the 18th century and 19th century when this whole biblical literalist movement began with people trying to prove that the Bible was literally true. And then later 20th century, it started getting sort of wrapped up with the whole conspiracy theory, alternative science theories, and I guess after the death of the original Flat Earth Society, which unfortunately passed away with the people who were running it in the 1990s. It's basically the guy who bought the domain name. It's basically just a conspiracy theory website now. It's basically just Alex Jones nonsense. So I mean that's the history. So I'm curious to hear from David where you see yourself fitting into that, or are you coming at this from a completely different direction?
completely different direction, Brian. Nice to talk to you. I'd like this conversation to have a little more back and forth rather than throw out 50 points. Let's bring out a point and discuss it quickly back and forth.
Well, that was his opening statement, in all fairness.
Yeah. No problem. You say science, it's trivial to perform experiments because it's so obvious. Well, that's not the scientific method. The scientific method is do an experiment, find a result, repeat it, and get the same result. But that's not what scientism is today. Scientism is now a religion. This is what it is. There's absolutely no proof, but we're telling you this is what it is. And if you question it, you're a heretic. You're a conspiracy theorist. The Bible is not where this started from. As a matter of fact, I've been an atheist my entire life, and anytime I'm listening to a podcast or whatever, as soon as they bring up religion, the Bible, I tuned out. Until I discovered the flat earth. And now, there's a lot of people out there that say it's in the Bible and read all the verses in the Bible. The Bible says this, the Bible says this. I come from the other side. I say, look at all these proofs. This proof, this proof, this proof, and this proof, and it's in the Bible. And so I cap it off on that end. There's so much information out there that proves a flat earth, and nothing at all proves a spinning, wobbling ball Earth.
Well, you're obviously very educated on the subject. What was your thought of the Bedford River experiment, for example?
The Bedford Level experiment. So the Bedford Level is a 6 mile canal, and water is level. On the ball Earth, it's supposed the water will curve around the Earth. But a scientist, got down in the water, put a telescope right at the surface of the water, just above it, and had his friend walk a rowboat or row a boat down the river, down it all 6 miles. And at 6 miles, it should be, I don't know, is it 18 feet over the curve?
5 feet.
5 feet?
Yeah, the marks were placed 13 feet up from the water level on each bridge, and when they looked at it through the theodolite, it was basically exactly 5 feet off of where the flat guy thought it should be.
So that's an experiment that we're all reading about and you haven't done. I'm looking at experiments that I've actually done. I've actually seen. Mark in the first hour with Mark D'Antonio asked him about seeing the across Lake Michigan, seeing the Chicago skyline 52 miles across from just a few feet above the water. Time lapse footage, probably 18 hours of footage, changing light conditions in the dark, and you can see the entire skyline at 52 miles. The tallest buildings should be over the curve of the Earth, but we can see the entire unwavering system under changing light and weather conditions. That's not a mirage. It didn't waver. It stayed there. You're staring at buildings, and you can see, which proves that is flat. The Earth is flat. There's many examples where you can see even farther. In Hawaii, you can see islands that should be far over the curve, right at sea level.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you've been advised that, well, this is just a simple case of a superior mirage. I mean, I've got this off the beach where I live as well with San Clemente.
Superior mirages don't last all day under changing light conditions, from day to night, from some clouds coming by, changing light conditions. That's not a superior mirage. A superior mirage wavers, flips, fades in and out. This was solid view of this. I've done it myself.
Well, they're dependent on temperature, not light. But
changing temperatures as the day changes, but this, you can see the entire crystal clear vision of all the buildings.
So you've made this observation. You're aware that you're at odds with 99.9% of people who work in geology, geography, optics, everything. I mean, is that the extent of what it took to convince you, or are there other things as well?
There's so many things that convince me. A lot of people start with NASA, and when you really look into NASA, you find out that they're a complete fraud. They're here just to prove the ball Earth. How come in the history of all space?
What? Well, wait, can we go back to that?
What, NASA?
They're here just to prove the ball Earth?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
Why?
everything that we see from NASA is fake. All of the images of Earth, both of them, the one
I'm
from
asking why? Why?
Well, that's another great question, and that's on my website under free. Well, it is.
You're saying that all of NASA exists only to prove the ball Earth. Surely there's got to be some kind of logic or reason for that.
So
that's pretty
if you
incredible.
let me answer, I'll give you the answer. And the answer is it's an involved question. And once you see the ramifications of understanding that we live on a flat Earth, then you could understand why they would do it. It's about separation from our true power. It's about making us feel insignificant, that we are on a speck flying through an infinite cosmos with millions of other specks like us. For me to be saying this now, I wouldn't have believed it a year ago, but it's about separating us from God and keeping us in a state of fear and disconnection for the purposes of control.
All right, guys, hang it.
Atheist. Is this?
Well, hang on.
I'm no longer an atheist.
All right, let's go to Craig, who is calling us somewhere near Houston, Texas. Hi, Craig. You're on with the guys. Hello, Craig. Going once, going twice.
Hello.
Somebody named Craig or something to the effect in Houston. Area code 832. Is that you?
Yeah.
Hi, you're on with Mark, you are on with Brian Dunning and David Weiss.
Well, that's awesome. I thought that Dave was having a great conversation, and suddenly my phone turned on. I had some
are you just being an ass, or do you have something honest to add to the conversation?
No, I have some tough questions for David.
Well, let's have it.
Shoot.
Okay. So, like on the equator, when the sundial is on the equator and it's in summertime, why does the shadow of the dial go from left to right, where on your model of the world it should also have a shadow at an angle?
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about. If if you look at the flat Earth model, the sun is making a circle across the flat plane of the Earth, and if you have a sundial, a stick pointing in the air, essentially, it will make it'll go from one side to the other, and it'll make different levels of a sweep depending on how far off center the sun is. Sundials make perfect sense. Ancient sundials still work today. It's because we're not flying through space chasing the sun at closer to 600,000 miles an hour while spinning 1,000 miles an hour while traveling around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. If you think about it, the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator and traveling 66,000 miles an hour chasing the sun. As it's going in the direction of the sun, you're going 67,000 miles an hour, and then 12 hours later you're coming around the other side going against the direction. So now you're going 65,000 miles an hour. So we're speeding up and slowing down 2,000 miles an hour every 24 hours, and nobody feels it. The water doesn't move. It's ridiculous when you look at it.
Well, I was just trying to talk about the sundial on the equator and how the shadow goes from directly east to directly west. And I forget exactly when, if it's summer equinox or whatever.
It would be at the equinox, and there's only a very short time where the sun is directly above that sundial. But yes, on the equator, the shadow north to south. Or south to north is narrow. It only extends out when it goes to the inner northern hemisphere or the outer southern hemisphere.
Okay, that's something. I have another good question though. What about the shadows on the moon? How do you explain that if the moon is self-illuminating?
So that's a really great question, and thanks for asking it. The moon is very difficult to explain. Nobody really knows what the moon is. There's so many anomalies, and that's a 2-hour show right there. But there's been many, many documented eclipses of the moon where the sun and the moon were both visible completely above the horizon during the eclipse. So that negates the fact that the Earth is causing that shadow. Something else is, and we could speculate all day on what that is.
Wait a minute. Wait. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Yeah, go, Brian.
So during a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse?
during a lunar eclipse where the Earth is supposedly casting a shadow on the moon. There's been well over 50 where you can see the sun and the moon completely above the equator from where you're standing at the same time during the eclipse.
Okay, you were saying that we've had at least 50 times where there's been a lunar eclipse, where the shadow of the Earth is blocking off part of the moon, but the sun is also visible.
Where you assume it's the shadow of the Earth, it's something else.
Okay, I'm calling bullshit on you right there. And
have you seen the lunar wave?
The lunar wave.
So here's the thing. If I were you, I would call bullshit too, unless I looked into this.
Guys, watch your language.
All right, sorry. I would call a Bravo Sierra. I apologize. And until you can find another explanation.
Hey, we're on the internet, but we also have radio affiliates. Let's keep that in mind.
No worries. So look up. There's a YouTuber called Crow777. Just look Crow77 lunar wave.
No.
Just
we don't
check it out
for our science information.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Give me something reliable.
Everything in the world is on YouTube. So I just use it as a platform. There's lots of garbage on YouTube. You have to sort it out. This is a well-documented astronomer with high-tech camera equipment. He explains what he's doing. He shows you. You'll see that it's not faked. He proves what he's showing. And you know what? Here's the question. What is it? We don't know what it is. It looks, for lack of a better term, I call it a refresh rate. Don't know what it is. Check it out and think for yourself. Don't believe anything I'm saying. Check this stuff out, and it's all linked on deepinsidetherabbithole.com on the Flat Earth page.
All right, Craig, anything else? Craig?
I have one final question for David. I understand how they could have convinced us that it's a ball, but I don't remember how they taught us to laugh at people who say otherwise. How did they program that into our mind?
Because they make jokes about the flat Earth. They create a controlled opposition group called the Flat Earth Society, where they throw out a couple interesting things that make you think, but then they say, well, the Earth is rising at 9.8 feet per second, and that's what gravity is, and the head of the society says, I traveled to the end of the Earth and I was falling off, but this rock saved me, and he brings the rock on, he's on a talk show, and he makes a mockery of it, so people laugh at it. It's been programmed into us. So the word flat Earth is synonymous with moron, stupid, idiot.
David, can I go back? I want to go back to the eclipse thing for a second. So the sun is visible in the sky.
Thank you.
So it's daylight, right?
Sure.
It's daylight, and yet you're saying the moon obscured is still visible.
The moon is, you can see the moon during the day.
Obscured by a shadow, but it's still visible during the day. And is that... I mean, do you have a specific date and time where one of these has taken place? I mean, this is something where every astronomer and science writer on the planet would have been exploding all over the internet with reporting this event. And this is what I do for a living, and I've never heard of any such thing ever being reported.
I don't have it at the tips of my fingers, but I
would think that would be pretty big for.
It's not one of the major proofs that I have, because even if I prove that the Earth isn't eclipsing the moon, it doesn't mean that the Earth is flat.
Okay, I would encourage you to reconsider that and go back to that and take a second look.
Fair enough, guys. We got to break it off right there, but we're not done with this, that is for sure. Brian, stick around with us, because I want you to go out with Mark Sargent coming up next. And as far as David is concerned, he'll be back as well, so stick with us. This is Dark 30. Earth is flat or the Earth is round? What do you have to say? 855-952-8255. Toll free or TALK. The Skype is Dark 30 Radio. We'll be back. From Portland, Oregon, I do believe. I recognize the zip code. It's Flat Earth Head. You're on with Brian Dunning.
Hey, how you doing?
Wonderful.
Hey,
and you?
Good to hear from you.
Back to the moon issue. I actually came into this whole flat Earth thing by my moon observations. I'm a sky watcher from a young age. Literally about 5, I had my first telescope and never stopped looking out there. I saw some interesting things with the moon myself. Clouds literally behind the moon, and that got me to looking at that phenomena, and many of these flat Earth videos started popping up in my recommended feed. I laughed, didn't watch them for months, finally looked at one, and it asked them the same questions I had in all my astrophysics class about gravity, about orbital mechanics, about aphelion and perihelion and things like that. And these questions are questions my professors never could answer. Just really? The body itself of the moon. It can't possibly be a sphere. A sphere reflects light that is convex in every direction, so the rays would have to point out in a radius perpendicular to that surface. I mean, there would be no reflection. If there was, it would just be a hot spot. That's why a disco ball has to have all those little mirrors on it, because a silver ball wouldn't reflect back the light. The moon has different properties. The moonlight is cooler than the shade moonlight makes. Moonlight is a putrescent light. It decays flesh. Sunlight preserves it and creates jerky. The moon is transparent. You can see stars through it on a regular basis. Just this evening, as the sun was setting in the west, the moon was in the eastern sky. The sun should have been reflecting off that orb at about a 2 o'clock position in the sky, but it was setting behind me directly in the west, below, fixing to go below the ball of the earth, as you guys say in your model. The direction the sun should have been pointing would have been about 2 o'clock in the sky. I see many things like that. At midnight on Christmas, the moon was completely full at midnight with the sun on the other side of the ball of the earth. These things just don't make sense in the ball earth model.
Well, let me go back to what you're saying about the moon. Are you talking about the moon being of uniform brightness? When you look at the full moon, if you're standing on the earth looking at the full moon and it appears to be of uniform brightness, and you're saying that indicates that it must be a flat disk, because if it was a sphere, the brightness would be brighter in the middle and darker around the edges. Do I understand you correctly?
I really don't believe it's a solid object, as in a disk floating through the sky. I believe it's a very ephemeral type ethereal object we really don't understand.
Did I correctly understand your description of part of the evidence that led you to that conclusion?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I mean, I can answer that from the perspective of geometry, if you'd like me to.
Sure.
When you're looking if you're looking straight at the center of the full moon, you're seeing it directly straight on. You're seeing as much of the moon's surface as you can, one square mile as you were. You're looking directly at it. It's filling as much of your field as vision as possible. That's why it looks big. When you're looking toward the edges of the moon, the light is not reflecting. I'm explaining this terribly. When you're looking at the center of the moon, the light is reflecting directly back at you, so we expect that to be brighter. When you look toward the edge of the moon, well, if it was a ball, then the light would be bouncing off at a very oblique angle, and we'd expect that to be more dim. Is that correct?
I know from art and drawing spheres that there has to be a hot spot
yeah, sure.
that is tangential. Oh, I can't even speak. I apologize. It has to point to the direction of your source.
We're all tongue-tied.
I understand what you're saying. The reason it doesn't look like that is because even though, yes, less light is reflecting to us from those parts of the moon that are nearer the edge. If it's a ball, if it was a sphere, and we're looking very near the edge, less light would be reflecting to us from that part of the surface. However, we are seeing proportionally that much more of the surface because we're seeing it at that sharp angle. So when you look at a tiny point on the moon near the edge, you're seeing 1,000 miles of moon surface. So even though it's dimmer, a similar amount of light is reaching back to us. So simply from the point of ray tracing and computer graphics and geometry, the moon would appear to be of uniform brightness if it were a sphere, equally as if it were a disk. So that by itself isn't enough to make the determination flat disk or round ball, because the light would behave the same in either case.
All right, well, may I ask about today's phenomena when at sunset, I mean, literally minutes before the sun was going below the horizon in the west, and in the east at about, let's say, at least 60 degrees in the sky in the east, the moon was up, and the reflection of this phase, it would have had to have been the sun in the sky at about a 2 o'clock position behind the moon, or to the right of the moon, I guess, in a 2 o'clock position. And yet, that wasn't where the sun was. The sun was setting directly behind me in the east. I actually took a video, but I really don't know how to send it this late in the game to you guys for you to review it.
Jeremy at dark30radio.com. We'll get it out there.
Surely I'll get it to you. But definitely that, just today, I saw that myself and was like, that's not the direction that the reflection should be coming from for this phase at this time of the day. And I see that all the time. That's actually kind of what my videos I started making are about, is the sun going through clouds. And I see this regularly. I see the moon with clouds behind it at night. And these are through like telescopes, astronomical binoculars. This isn't just a bad video on a tablet, which is all I can produce. These are things I'm seeing with my own eyes. And I've actually seen the lunar wave that David was talking about a little earlier. I don't really believe it's a refresh rate of a hologram or whatever some of these theories that are out there. I've come a lot further in the ideas I have about it, and it really has to do with cymatics and sonoluminescence, if you've studied that at all. Stars in a jar. Have you looked into that phenomena at all?
I haven't heard that, no. But just so I understand where you're coming from, are you of the more popular school of thought that the Earth is a flat disk, the North Pole is at the center, the South Pole is a rim of ice around the edge? Is that your model as well?
I don't believe in the ice wall anymore. That was early in the study. This is something you progress with and evolve as you learn it and change your ideas about. At this point, I'm starting to think it's more of a they're hiding land from us kind of thing. There's a big gap on the globe or the flat Earth model map. If you look at it, there's a big gap of ocean between South America and Australia. That there should be something there, and that's a place where planes go off the radar.
Who's hiding land? I'm sorry?
Yeah, they're hiding land. There's a land out there that... who do you think? The government? The 1%?
I'm asking. I don't know.
We are way off track, Flat Earth Head.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right. Let me mediate. Closing comment, Flat Earth Head.
The sun is close to us. It's about 32 miles away. If you navigate with the sextant and don't include the 16 nautical miles that half of the position of the sun is, you're 16 nautical miles off. If you take those minutes and round it off, it's 32 miles away. 32 miles across. The moon is definitely not what we think it is or what we've been told. It's not a terra firma object that you can go land on. It's see-through. It's been recorded many times in the London Astronomical Society that stars and planets have been seen through the occulting of the moon instead of making them disappear. These objects are not what we were taught in school. You need to do your own research. It's out there. Look up cymatics, and sonoluminescence. Two great areas to study if you want to find out what stars and planets really are.
Flat Earth Head, we appreciate the call. We'll get Brian Dunning's response on the other side. 855-952-TALK. That's 855-952-8255. Flat Earth, Round Earth. And we've got a rebuttal from Keith Linder from what we heard at the beginning of the program coming up in about an hour from now. Stick with us.
Dark 30.
All right, Brian Dunning, we go to you for your rebuttal.
Well, my question, which I would have loved to hear his answer, but he may or may not have had one, was about solar events. When he's talking about the distance of the sun being, I believe he said 32 miles away. It's really that's hard to correlate that with how we can characterize solar events, whether they be a coronal mass ejection or some sort of a solar flare. There's different types of radiation with known speeds that reach the Earth when those things happen. We can detect them optically with a telescope. We see something go boom on the surface of the sun. That means it happened 8 minutes ago because the light took 8 minutes to get to us. And we know what types of radiations then are going to be following on that optical event. And I just wanted to know how he can correlate that with the sun being only 32 miles away and yet it taking 208 hours for some of the particles to get to the Earth. I think that's something that if he were to spend some time educating himself on, that it might encourage him to re-examine his views.
I think he meant 32 miles across, not 32 miles away.
Okay, that's why I asked him.
Well, he did.
What was his model of the flat Earth?
He did correct himself. I'm not sure if you heard that.
Okay. I must have missed that then. But I wanted to know what his model of the Earth, of the flat Earth, was, because that's, there's been different ones proposed by some of these different groups over the decades, and it's kind of an important point. Where is the sun? Because if you look at the experiments like the ancient Greeks did, I know I mentioned that a little while ago when we were talking about what Pythagoras did, was they went to wells that were a specifically measured distance apart, and at the exact same time of day, they measure the angle of the sun coming into those wells. Now, if the Earth is flat, if the Earth is round, obviously that makes perfect sense. There's no special pleadings necessary, no re-examining of physics or anything like that. But if the Earth is flat, well, then measuring those angles gives us a very specific distance away that they're saying the sun must be. So that would be impossible to match that up with the speed of certain types of radiation that we get from solar events.
All of our calls don't go through a screener. You just have to hear Leo Ashcraft's message laying down the rules, and then you get into the queue. And we have a call from Las Cruces, Mexico. I believe this is Joe. Now, of course, I have no clue what direction this is going to go. I'm not sure if he's on the flat Earth side or the round Earth side, and we have 2 minutes left in the hour. So, Joe, welcome to the program, and state your case, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely a flat earther, and I just like to say, first of all, that let's go with the rotation of the Earth. If a balloon is stabilized in a particular area in the sky, the Earth should move underneath it. If the Earth rotates, well, obviously that doesn't happen. Science says it's because the atmosphere and everything moves with the Earth together. Well, let's say that that's true. If you take a plane...
That's not what science says, but go ahead.
Well, all right. But it is true that the Earth doesn't move underneath the balloon, correct?
The Earth...
Okay.
Well, balloons move with the wind, and the wind is wind because it's relative to the Earth's surface.
Let me rephrase it.
All right. Well, Joe, I'm afraid we don't have time for you to rephrase it right now, but you will have time to rephrase it after the newscast. Well. All right, hang on. No, you're not on the air right now, Joe, so you can keep talking all you want, but nobody's hearing you right now. We have to take that top of the hour break. We got to pay the bills, and you know what's coming up next.
Dark 30 News with Amanda Curran is next on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
It sure is, and in 45 minutes, Keith Linder from the Washington State Poltergeist House will react to what we had in the first segment of the program. But when we come back, we're going to get the final part of this between Joe in Roswell, New Mexico, and with Brian Dunning. Coming back is Mark Sargent, and also coming back are David Weiss. It's Flat Earth versus Round Earth. On this, the newest show in paranormal. It's Dark 30 on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
Take a ride? You're tuned to the wrong show. Want to expand your consciousness? You're stuck in the wrong decade. Want to know more at the end of this show than you did at the beginning? Now you're traveling close to the speed of light. In the eternal midnight, somewhere between twilight and the witching hour, where the digital clock is always blinking 12, there is Dark 30, asking the questions to all things paranormal that you really want to know. Are we alone? Is there life after death? What's that in the sky? And how the hell do you evict a ghost? From the cold, dark depths of a secret dungeon, somewhere deep in the remote Pacific Northwest, you're entering Dark 30.
Head spinning. That's how I will describe the first 2 hours of this Dark 30 program, and we are not done. We have another show. It's the newest show in paranormal. Tomorrow night, we've got L.A. Marzulli on the program talking about the Bible, the Nephilim, aliens, angels, and biblical prophecies. That should be an instant classic as well. Stanton Friedman, the replay, coming up on Friday. We'll also hear Ray Hernandez look back on the life of the late Edgar Mitchell. And lots of great shows in the final week from Portland next week. And then we're live again March 7th from the Piney Woods of East Texas. We got the Gatekeepers Paranormal team coming up next week. Peter Robbins, well-known ufologist Michael Cremo, archaeology, you'll know that name, and also Father Jack Ashcraft talking about exorcisms and demonology and so much more. No Richard C. Hoagland tonight. I know he's got to go on the air in an hour, but we've given him plenty of time to stand his ground tonight, and I'll just consider that a no thank you. But we have had several rounds nonetheless. Mark D'Antonio joined us in the first round against Mark Sargent, who will be coming back in just a little while here. We've also had David Weiss on the program. He's a flat earther, and we've got Brian Dunning with us right now. He believes in round Earth. He's a scientist. More of your background, Brian. You want to tell us about yourself and where we can be in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm a science writer by profession. I'm best known as the host of the Skeptoid podcast, which takes a science-based look at urban legends, basically. It's been a weekly show since 2006, so it's been around for a long time, over 500 and something episodes. Skeptoid.com.
Send me an email. Send me an email. I'd like to have you on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
Sure.
We have on the line as well with us Joe from Roswell, New Mexico, but it looks like Joe hung up. I guess he couldn't take the heat, so you get the final comments. No, hang on. He's calling back right now. Joe,
good.
Joe, you almost struck out there. So you're now on with Brian Dunning. You're on the air. What's you were saying as we went to our break?
Okay, let me just put it like this. I built a magnetic rail out of ceramic magnets.
Quit swallowing your phone.
All right, hold on a second.
No, that's much better.
Is that better? I had it on speaker, sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, because I'm hearing the echo in the background, so I kind of wanted to hold it away.
You can hold it away.
Anyway.
Yeah, you can hold it away.
Okay, so anyway, I built that ceramic magnet rail about 2 feet long. I built a partition that hovers on top of it with some more ceramic magnets. I lined it up east to west. Okay, I set it on the west side of it. So it should, I set it on the east side of it. It should, in theory, within hours, be on the other side of that rail. All right, now, science says it's because this air and everything, because of gravity, moves along with the spin of the Earth. Well, if that's the case, then if you take a plane heading west and a plane heading east, how is it that the plane going west doesn't reach its destination before the plane going east?
I see what you're doing. So you basically
hold on. I got one more point to add. That
sure,
there is an argument against that I don't believe in, but here's the rebuttal to what you're fixing to say. You can't account for the fuel consumption, because even if it was such a minute difference in speed, the actual friction of going against the air and gravity moving one direction would cause the fuel consumption to be more, and that it does not happen.
I'm not sure I follow that, but about the thing that you built, basically what you did was you constructed it.
If you stick your hand in a running river, okay, and you try to move it against the river, it's going to take more energy than it does if you move it with the river. So if the air and the earth is all moving in one direction and you're flying against it, then the friction is more, so therefore the fuel consumption should be more to fly against it.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that it sounds like you're assuming the air is a static ball that the Earth is spinning underneath.
No, I'm saying what science says about the magnetic vortices that lock us in place above
magnetic
the
vortices.
Earth, physical Earth. It's the reason why they say a lady back in the early 1900s did a balloon experiment where she hovered in still air, no wind blowing. The Earth did not move underneath her feet. I did an experiment with a rail. It did not move. So, but let's just say that it does move. Once you go against that movement, it should cause more fuel consumption in the craft that you're flying against it in. And it does not.
Okay, well, I guess we're talking about a couple of things. We're talking about aircraft fuel consumption, and we're talking about basically the pendulums that are used to demonstrate the Coriolis effect. Is that correct?
There is no proof of the guy that on your side earlier made some kind of weird argument that, because it doesn't, the Coriolis effect doesn't affect little things, that it doesn't affect big things. So my question is, how can you even notice the Coriolis effect? Because apparently it doesn't work for any ballistic missile or any kind of ballistics at all, according to that guy.
I don't know about that. I mean, Coriolis effect is absolutely a component in
I'm a sniper.
Artillery, ballistics, missile trajectories.
I am a sniper, and I know that we never take that into effect. And
certainly not for a sniper. Yeah, a bullet goes how far, how fast?
For 20 years, and never have we ever, when I dropped a pendulum down, ever did I have to take into account for the curvature. Ever.
No, you certainly, it would be absolutely infinitesimal in a sniper situation. But for the pendulum effect that you're talking about, if you build something that's magnetically suspended, and if the Earth was actually a sphere, you would expect to see your bar take a 360-degree rotation over the course of a day. Is that correct?
Well, it would, whatever the mass is, I know the Earth moves approximately 19 miles per second. So whatever the effect is,
sure,
you should see that effect. Now, I've moved the rail up underneath that flotating device, too, to show that it doesn't even affect it when it's moving, so it doesn't grab it and pull it along with it. So
well, what I would suggest is instead of doing that, because the magnetic fields that support your bar are going to be far stronger and way overwhelmed by many orders of magnitude.
Okay, then
whatever effect the Coriolis effect might have.
If I move the rail up underneath it, the thing that's floating on top does not move at all. It stays exactly in the same spot. So therefore, if the rail attached to the floor moved with the Earth, in theory and in science and in math, that magnet on top should stay and be on the other side of the rail.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I don't know all about what the shape of your magnetic fields look like or anything like that. But what I can tell you is about
ceramic magnets.
Okay, pendulums that are set up at many observatories around the world.
Let him finish, please. Go ahead, Ryan.
There's a very famous pendulum at the Griffith Park Observatory in Los Angeles that's known for doing this. They set up a pendulum. They set up a bunch of pegs on the floor in a line, and as the day progresses, the path that this pendulum traces as it swings back and forth takes a full 360-degree rotation, and that's because of the Coriolis effect. And that's kind of the simplest, most universal, most elegant demonstration of the Coriolis effect that anyone can see every day.
That's a demonstration that something's causing it to move, not necessarily the Coriolis effect. As far as I know, it could be the flat Earth that gyrates around. I don't know that. If you can relate that directly to the Coriolis and show how that is something, then yeah, I can agree with it.
You're absolutely right. But in the flat Earth model, I mean, depending on what flat Earth model you're talking about, some people say the Earth, the flat Earth doesn't move and the sun goes in a circle above it. Other people say the flat Earth is rotating like a record on a record player and the sun is stationary above it. I mean, the Coriolis effect would apply there just as well.
Sure, if there's such thing as kinetic energy and static energy of the sun moving around, of course it would, and that's my point. Is you can't use the same arguments for the ball that can apply to the flat Earth and prove the ball theory.
Okay, but understand this.
We have taken things that the ball earthers cannot dispute and have proved that the ball cannot exist. All I'm asking is for you guys to take something that the flat Earth cannot apply to their model that shows that the flat Earth cannot exist and that the ball Earth does.
Thank you, Joe.
Go pay $20 million and go for a ride on the space station. I mean, it's been done many times. I'm not sure what more you're asking for. But the basic flat Earth model is if you imagine the UN flag. A lot of people can picture the UN flag. It's like a flat model of the Earth with the North Pole at the center and the continents around it and the South Pole kind of around the edge. In fact, interestingly, some flat Earth proponents have proposed that that's the secret Illuminati New World Order's secret clue that that's really actually the shape of the Earth. But nevertheless, that's basically the model. If you take a globe and you see the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. Those are basically the high and low points of the path over which the sun travels during the highest point in summer and the lowest point in winter. And the sun will draw like a sine wave around the globe as it's rotating. Now, if you translate this into the map, imagine that UN map, folding that whole system out, unfold the globe, flatten it out into that map, into whatever model you've got, whether the Earth is spinning and the sun is static, or the Earth is static and the sun is spinning over. And basically, you've got the same physics in effect. So for many of these questions, you're going to get the same answers, whether the Earth is a ball, as science finds it to be, or whether the Earth is this flat thing it's like an unfolded globe. You're going to get the same answers and the same results. And a little while ago, we were talking about a sundial, and that was the perfect example of this, because the sundial would behave exactly the same in this theoretical unfolding of the Earth. So a lot of these arguments that say, well, why does this work? Why does this work? Why does this work? Well, of course it works, because you're taking basically the known model of the Earth and simply kind of reconfiguring it, re-unfolding it, moving everything around, but keeping the same physics all in place. So a lot of these they sound like they're arguments for the flat Earth, but really they're arguments for, what's the branch of mathematics where they talk about knots?
Boring.
Topology, is it? We're talking. It's basically a topological equivalent of the standard model, and so they're really not disproving the standard model, because you're working on a topological equivalent. I hope that makes sense to someone who's listening.
Brian, you ready for a final round?
Absolutely.
Stay with us.
Mutual Broadcast Network.
You certainly are. It's the newest show in paranormal. Our archives cost only $3.99 a month, which is a steal of a deal. You get access not only to this show, but Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, the Truth Sentinel, and other Mutual programs, the Dark 30 Newscast with Amanda Curran, the shows as they join the network, and all for that low price of $3.99 a month, or $30 a year. Sign up at mutualbroadcast.com. That is the place. We're here for 3 hours every night. It's always free to listen to us live, and that's where you can find the shows after the fact. All right, that means round 3. All right, I don't think there's much of a contest here. I mean, we do have Brian Dunning, we have Mark Sargent back, but you guys were we were chatting it up, and I don't think. Do you guys really disagree? Are you sure about that?
Well, no. Actually, I'd like to say first that, after listening, because I was listening in between the breaks, I like what Brian said, where he said there's a lot of things that would work on either model, the flat model or the globe model, depending on which way you looked at it, because the question is the flat model just a flattened version of the sphere, or is the sphere just a clumped up version of the flat? And I'd like to follow up with a quick question. And by the way, thank you very much, Brian, for jumping in place of Richard Hoagland. I know he's probably got scheduling issues, but
we'll call it that.
Am I the Richard Hoagland guy tonight?
Yeah,
I would never have guessed that in a million years.
What, that you're actually replacing Richard?
Yes.
Yeah.
The face on Mars is a conspiracy.
Well, technically, you're replacing Mark D'Antonio, who replaced Richard Hoagland, but hey.
Well, yeah. But I don't want to go into Richard's model. I mean, he believes in the secret space program, and from the flat Earth point of view, the secret is that there is no space program, which is why I was kind of looking forward to Richard. But again, I love the fact that you came in. I don't know how they got you on such short notice, but that's fantastic.
We have connections.
Oh, cool. Good. Excellent. But I do want to, so I want to throw some questions, and I'm going to kind of put them in your lap in this case. So, because you mentioned some things earlier, I want to kind of play off of them, which is, for example, because we've been looking forward to talking with science for some time, and science keeps avoiding us. And we all know that fire burns, water is wet, you drop a pen, that appears to be gravity. So that in mind, is there anything, if you had to take, or representing science, or anybody from science that's listening out there, if you had to take the average person on the street, not someone like you, not one of your friends, anyone with a PhD or something like that, but if you had to take the average person on the street and show them, it's like, look, I'm going to show you how it's a globe. Could you do it without what you mentioned by giving them $20 million to try to go up in a rocket? Is there anything you could do to show them this?
Could you take here on the sidewalk? Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything you could do on the top of the sidewalk that would prove the difference between those two topological equivalents if we're going that direction. Because from the perspective of the limited perspective of what you can see from the Earth's surface, if you're standing on the Earth's surface,
or in a plane or in a weather balloon, you can't get up high enough with civilian equipment or even view it with civilian equipment to see any sort of a curve. Because I mean,
you can put a GoPro on a weather balloon. People do that all the time.
Yeah, but even then, we're the first ones to admit it, the flat Earth people, that even at 120, 130,000 feet, it's not enough to show anything. Because some people are saying, well, 130,000 feet, that proves a flat Earth. And we've had people that have done 3D models, and taken a simulated whatever, and it has to get up way, way higher. And we're saying, no, the weather balloon doesn't prove a flat Earth. What it shows is that anytime you see a mainstream story like the Red Bull jump or anything that NASA that shows a really, really severe fisheye lens, because we all know that Arizona, the entire globe doesn't cover just Arizona, that those images are severely distorted. But where I'm going with this, and bear with me for a second, which is, for example, and I'm not trying to pick on science too much here, but there's one glaring thing which has stuck out during my journey through this.
Mark, did you stop drinking coffee? You're way more tame.
Well, I'm trying to change gears. Well, the other guy was irritating me because he had a bunch of people laughing behind him, and I just wanted to reach through the phone and murder him. But Brian's way more mellow, and I'm going to give him the respect he deserves here, because again, he's replacing Richard Hoagland, who ran into his secret moon base apparently. So, not to pick Richard.
Even though you're a flat earther, I love you and I want to hang out with you.
So do I. Let's all hang out. Kumbaya.
It's flat Earth friendship. No, I don't.
Secondhand smoke kills more than 400 infants and 41,000 adult non-smokers every year. Secondhand smoke exposure is when non-smokers...
Here's what I throw at you. That is, for example, here the reason why, example why the flat earthers are having trouble with science, a perfect example would be the core of the Earth. Everyone's seen the cross-section of the Earth, right? It's supposedly 8,000 miles thick, and it shows us wonderful bands of red and orange and yellow and white. And I look at it and I was going, yeah, that's great. But while I'm researching flat Earth, I find out it's no, you didn't dig 4,000 miles to the center of the Earth. You didn't dig 1,000 or 100 or even 10. You dug 8 miles. That's the deepest hole anyone's ever drilled. And yet you're showing, everyone from school kids on up that this is the cross section of the Earth. It looks like a gobstopper cutaway. And I know, I get it. You can't put a big question mark in the center of the Earth because that's, science doesn't like doing that. But when I hear, Neil deGrasse Tyson come out on television and he says, science is right whether you believe in it or not, I take an issue with it because there's some liberties that science takes. So my question is, and I know I'm taking the long way around, my issue is, if you don't know what the core of the Earth looks like, I mean, not even close, could be made out of petrified wood, you don't know, then if there was a chance that, even though all your math looked good for hundreds of years, if there was a chance that once you got high enough, and by that I mean 1957, high enough to look at the Earth, and you looked down and you said, doesn't really look like a sphere, would you tell anybody? And I put myself in the shoes of the authority, the governments, the royals, whoever you want to call, the power elite. And I say, no, I don't think I would, because it would upset too many things. There'd be an academia for one, religion for another. People would be personally looking over their shoulders and constantly up at the sky, wondering if there was a scorecard on their lives. So my question to you is, could it be feasible? I'm going to throw this out there because this is what my model covers, and you'll know the model I'm talking about. Could it be feasible if there was a technology out there to build a planetarium that was thousands of miles wide and hundreds, if not thousands of miles high? Could you technically simulate what we know as a globe inside of it? Is it possible? No different than a planetarium. Because,
I mean, you're bringing up a couple of interesting things that are worth a detour before going there.
Sure.
I mean, you're saying that the flat Earth can only exist with a massive worldwide international conspiracy theory among astronauts and everyone involved in every space program in every country.
Not everybody. I had, in fact, my next door neighbor I lived next to for a couple of years was a guy named Wayne Ottinger, Ottinger. He was like the garage mechanic for NASA. He knew all the astronauts on a first name basis, developed the LEM, wrote a book on it, and he didn't know anything. I mean, his walls were covered in plaques from NASA. Well, he was crazy.
Was he in on the conspiracy, or was he one of the sheeple? I mean, in your model.
Well, that's just it. Who do you need to tell other than maybe the telemetry guys? And by the way, those tapes are long gone, all the Apollo telemetry tapes. Other than the telemetry guys and guys at the very, very height, because, yeah, I've gotten calls from people, oh, my grandfather worked at NASA, and how dare you call him a liar? I'm going, no,
Those tapes are all missing because Kirk and Sulu beamed into the room and stole the tapes.
You know what I mean? They are.
Everyone knows that.
Well,
okay. Let me go back to what you're talking about with the structure of the Earth's core.
Yeah.
I mean, from seismology, we know a tremendous amount about the structure of the Earth's core.
Sure.
I am not a seismologist, so I am not going to represent to you that there is no possible alternate explanation for this.
Yeah.
But because of the way P waves and S waves propagate, this is something we all learned in high school.
Yeah.
When you got an earthquake that happens in Polynesia, we can predict exactly when the P waves and the S waves are going to hit, and we know that they're going to be deflected at different depths in the Earth's core by the different layers in the Earth's core. And that all works out.
Okay.
Sitting here right now, I can't tell you that there is no topological equivalent of a flat Earth that could produce the same effect, but I very, very, very much doubt it, because those are all based on a sphere where everything is equidistant from a central core.
Yeah.
In any flat Earth model, you can't have that. And so you wouldn't be able to get that smoothness of propagation that we see that's observable and provable in hard data in black and white that's not debatable.
Gotcha. I hear you.
I think that's a very important point.
It is. I like it.
I think the suggestion of a conspiracy theory among all the astronauts who've all gone up there and all observed, wow, the Earth is flat after all, I better not tell anybody.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of hard to defend.
Well, I mean, see, I take it one step further. Unfortunately, you're not going to like my answer, which is not only do I not think that the astronauts didn't go up there and then view a flat Earth, I don't think anyone went up anywhere. So far as to say that no astronauts been put on the top, because if you're going to fake something, the last thing you're going to do is put people on top of a big pile of liquid explosives and light a match. And if you think I'm kind of off my rocker here, look up real quick, look up in any search engine, type in 3 words, Challenger astronauts alive, and look at what happened there. Yeah, the Challenger blew up. We all saw it in 1986, but the internet hive mind, they don't think they anticipated it. They tracked 6 of these 7 guys down. They look exactly like they should have. They should be 30 years later.
You know what? I do this for a living. Every week I do an episode of my show, the Skeptoid Podcast. Not making a plug, but it's skeptoid.com for everyone.
Sure.
And I do a lot of these conspiracy theories. And the one that I'm working on right now is basically I'm attacking the pseudo-history channel. The History Channel. Their show called Hunting Hitler, where they're promoting some thoroughly debunked and absurd theory that Hitler didn't die in Berlin in 1945, but he went down to South America.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in 10 years of doing this show is that there is literally not a single conspiracy theory that anyone can imagine that doesn't have people making YouTube videos supporting it.
Sure.
So I have learned to not be moved by the fact that there are lone people making YouTube videos.
Hey,
what I'm moved by, let me finish. What I am moved by is something that can be demonstrated and can be shown experimentally and then can be replicated by other experimenters.
Yeah.
Because every scientist in this world has his job because knowledge needs to be learned and someone needs to pay someone to learn that knowledge. Yeah. And every scientist's career is dependent upon him making that big discovery.
Mark, if I could have you hold your rebuttal and Brian finish up here, your closing statement.
Sure. The fact that scientists would hide the discovery of not the century, but the entire history of the world for some reason, rather than using it for their own personal career, and that every scientist through history has done this, it strains credibility. It strains credibility.
Brian, I want to thank you for being on the program, being a trooper for us tonight, and I look forward to having you on another time.
Sure.
Mark, hang with us. We have maybe another round earther who would join us on the phone. We're going to get David Weiss back as well. Your calls are still, acceptable. 855-952-TALK, 8255-855-952-TALK, or the Skype is Dark30 Radio, and Keith Linder coming up at the end of the program.
Go to dark30radio.com for links to the guests, stories, and podcasts.
Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
If you owe for back taxes, payroll taxes, or if you have not filed, the IRS will search you out. They are the most powerful collection agency in the world. One call to Wall & Associates, and your tax problems can be solved. Listen.
I was worried I would lose my house. Wall met with me in person.
I was scared. Wall & Associates got my levy released in 48 hours.
They settled my back tax debt for a fraction of what I owed.
At Wall, we solve tax problems. Call 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922. You always speak with a live person.
I never had to talk to the IRS again.
Wall stopped my wage garnishment.
Wall solved my back tax problems for a fraction of what I owed.
Call Wall & Associates now for a free face-to-face consultation. Call 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922.
Profile America, Wednesday, February 17th. This month, and some sources cite this date, is the 250th anniversary of the 1766 birth of Thomas Malthus in Dorking, England. Given that birthplace, he perhaps naturally became an economist, demographer, and statistician. He's remembered for The Principle of Population, a 1798 essay foretelling the widespread famine caused by population growth far outstripping the food supply. While the forecast remains unrealized, his theory of demand-supply mismatches was a precursor to later theories about the Great Depression. When Malthus wrote his essay, the world population was a little under 1 billion. Currently, the global population is nearly 7.3 billion people. You can find more facts about America's people, places, and economy from the American Community Survey at census.gov.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Electronics Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Listen to the Mutual Broadcast Network on the TuneIn Radio app or download our app at mutualbroadcast.com.
Unfiltered and 100% paranormal. You're entering Dark 30 on the Mutual Broadcast Network.
All right, do we have a round earther among the audience? 855-952-TALK, 855-952-8255, or you can Skype Dark 30 Radio. We've only got 10 minutes here in this segment, and we've got David Weiss back with us, and we still have Mark Sargent with us. And so we go to David, who wants to respond to, many things that we've had so far on the program. David, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. There was lots. There's so many points. It's really hard to know where to start. I just encourage people to Google images of Earth from space. Look at them. They're all fake. They're all paintings. They're all CGIs, and even the ones that they don't admit are CGI. The continents are all wrong. The United States is twice the size that it was in the 1970s blue marble shot in the new shot that they just released. So I guess America is getting fatter. Satellites, we're told that satellites are up in the thermosphere where it's 2,000 plus degrees. Satellites would melt since they're made from paper mache anyway. And the people say, well, if there's not satellites, how does GPS work? Well, GPS is a ground-based system. We had it long before satellites were ever in space. It was called the Loran system. And if you watch airplane traffic on the tracking of airplanes, anytime it goes out over the water 200 miles from any shore where there's no islands or anything, like a trip to Hawaii or in the southern oceans, it says approximated. It doesn't even know where the plane is. As a matter of fact, in the southern hemisphere, they just disappear off of the. They're not tracked. So. Brian was talking about Pythagoras saying he measured, the sunlight going into wells. But there's another explanation. If the sun is 32 miles across or thereabouts and within a couple thousand miles of the Earth over the flat Earth, that the same measurements can be made with assuming that we have parallel light coming in from 97 million miles away. If you look at NASA, all of the spacewalks were absolutely faked. I think, Mark, did you talk about the helmet turning, or was that just in the chat that I remember?
No, that was in chat.
So in one of the first spacewalks, it shows the guy floating out there, and his whole helmet pivots almost 45 degrees. Well, the helmets don't pivot; their heads turn inside the helmet. And if you look at it with new eyes, you'll see that it's stop motion photography. All of this stuff sounds crazy, but when you look at it, you see it. And you actually wonder how you ever believed it before. And just the last thing I want to bring up, I'll keep this a little shorter than agreed upon, is seasons. People say, how does seasons work? What people don't realize is the official story is the northern hemisphere is in its summer when we're actually closer in our supposed elliptical orbit to the Earth. It's just that we're leaning towards the Earth. We have more direct sun rays, but that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because on December 21st, when the sun should be the farthest, the worst angle to us, warming the southern hemisphere, at 12 noon, when the sun is 40, 50 degrees off the horizon, you can't feel the heat on your face if you stare at the sun. However, in June, July, when you look at the sun at sunrise and sunset, when it is the most severe possible angle before, setting, you can feel the sun blazing on your face when it should be arctically cold. I wish we had a ball earther to respond. Maybe, Jeremy, you want to ask a question.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. How about that? Sure. All right, what do I want to say?
So you're a flat earther playing devil's advocate?
Well, I mean, we gotta. Okay, here's the thing: is I am, and I mean this honestly, I'm too dumb to understand whether the Earth is flat or round. You guys are way more smarter than this. You guys are the ones who look at the evidence and look at the science. I mean, if I had a theory, if I thought it was one way or the other, I'd just do the whole program myself. But
I disagree, though, with what you just said, meaning I don't think you're dumb at all, which is why Brian's statement really rang true with me. When I ask him, I go, look, if you had to take the average person on the street, I know you're not average, you're above average, you're a radio host, you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
But if he asked you, if he had to go to you and say, look, here's how I'm going to prove it's a globe, he was the first one to say, look, I can't do it. You can't, other than, giving you $20 million and putting you up in a spaceship. he's not going to be able to do it. I mean, yeah, he can throw some math at you, but what's that going to do?
Here's all I got, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't the word globe mean sphere or something round?
Sure. But we don't live on a globe.
Why? No, he's going somewhere with this, right?
Isn't it? I'm always wondering why in elementary school they picked up a globe and they turned it around. Is our education system just way off?
It's an indoctrination system. You know, from the first thing you learn in school, 1 + 1 is 2, and we live on this spinning ball. There's a globe in every classroom. If you look, every movie has a spinning globe in it. Most shows have globes in it. Globes are everywhere. They're programming us all the time because this is the biggest deception so far. To keep us in control. It's all about control, and I encourage people to just take the time, turn off the idiot box, and watch some of these videos that we've compiled. Mark's website is amazing, which is, what's the name of your website?
Enclosedworld.com, or if you're the biblical stuff, you could go to testingtheglobe.com, which is Rob Skiba.
Okay, I got one more for you guys.
Shoot.
Where the hell are the women in this argument?
There are women, but they generally don't try to put themselves out in live things if they can help it.
There are a few, and I mentioned her before. You know her very well, Mark. Patricia Steer. She has a show where she interviews other flat earthers.
Oh yeah, she called in earlier, but she didn't hang on the line.
And her show is called, just Google it. It's on several times a week. You could watch the old ones or you could watch it live and join the chat. It's called Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. You know, if you sit down and watch that, it's more entertaining than anything on cable television. And it's fascinating.
By the way, the women, I will say this, out of all the conspiracies, because you know full well that there's not a lot of women in the conspiracy world, but they're really, the percentage is really elevated when it comes to the whole flat earth thing, because for whatever reason, women have that BS meter that they pick up on it, and they've gone out of their way to make videos and make channels. I mean, yeah, they're not as high profile with the exception of Patricia as other people, but they're out there, and it's really, really surprising and wonderful to see.
And Patricia has interviewed a bunch of very smart flat Earth women.
Yeah, she has. Yeah, they're out there, no question, and it's great. In the Flat Earth, every night is Ladies' Night. I encourage any woman to get involved in Flat Earth because, compared to all the conspiracies, for me, it's a message of hope, which is. Yeah, it's sinister in that, they've been hiding the Earth from us, but at the same time, I believe it can change the world and turn it into a new golden age. Meaning, wouldn't we act better if we were all in the same community? Wouldn't we all become one family? Would we actually go to war? Would we commit hate crimes? Would we do all those things if there was a higher power out there? And I'm not saying it's God, but if it is, that's one thing. But an advanced civilization looking over our shoulders, you still going to act the way you do? I don't think so. And so women dig it.
David's website is deepinsidetherabbithole.com. Mark's website is enclosedworld.com. 30 seconds each for final statements.
David, go.
The flat Earth is an amazing, amazing subject if you have the courage to look into it. The more you look into it, the more you'll understand that we're not on a speck ball flying through space in 4 different directions at the same time with the magic gravity holding us in place. You just have to take the time and look, and it frees you from the matrix that we've been trapped into and disconnects you from the control system. I know that sounds like a lot, but you have to look into it. Deepinsidetherabbithole.com. Check out my 2 Flat Earth pages. I challenge anyone to get through those videos and come out still believing in the ball.
David, thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem.
Best to you. And Mark?
Okay, the final word for me. Treat flat Earth versus round Earth. I know it's going to upset a lot of people. Treat it like a court case. And that is, there's been people like, is there proof of the flat Earth? Proof of the flat Earth? It's like, you got to look at it from the other side. The burden of proof is on the globe. And what Flat Earth does more than anything is it creates reasonable doubt on the globe side. There should be 500 years of evidence on the globe side. And when you look into it and you dig into it, you're not going to find any.
Best to you as well. We hope to have you back at another time, Mark.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. We'll have Keith Linder.